Hey everybody, welcome back to Post Status Live. I have my friend Sean McCabe on and of SeanWest.com, but I'll let him tell you more about himself and his work. I want you to hear about his daily content machine, which is fabulous. I've been thinking about you going, I needed to pull the trigger at some point and become a client. But today we're going to be talking about memberships and courses. And Sean's been doing this for years now, over a decade, I think, if I'm doing my math right. And it's fantastic to have a person like him on the webinar today so that we can talk through that. Because Sean, so many people have these type of questions about memberships and launching courses, and it's a hot topic right now. Last year and this year with the pandemic, a lot of people working from home thinking about, wow, let's start a membership and course. But before I dive into that, and I want to let you talk, tell us a little bit about yourself and your work. And I want you to talk about Daily Content Machine too, but SeanWest.com and everything you do.
Yeah, so got into digital products back when I was doing a web agency around 2010 or so. We actually, one of our first digital products was WordPress training, like how to use WordPress, how to get someone on your team to learn how to use WordPress to manage your site for you. So that was kind of our foray, but eventually got into teaching things like art, teaching things like business, like pricing and copywriting and things like that. And this was early on where there weren't these ready to go course platforms or communities and all these software. So it was a lot of custom stuff back then, building plugins and things and piecing together different plugins to create solutions. So it's changed a lot in terms of especially how easy it is to get into selling your own courses and memberships and digital products online. But what hasn't changed is the marketing and the validation of what it is that you're selling and how you're selling it and how you're pricing it, how you're positioning it. And so I kind of want to speak to some of those timeless principles and things that I've seen over the past 7, 8, 9 years of courses and memberships. What has worked, what hasn't worked, and we were talking before we went online on air. I've had some space from it too that's been really good to give me some perspective. So for a while, I was just heads down for 5 years, just cranking out courses. And now I'm kind of stepped back from that. So yeah, I just want to lend a unique perspective, I think, and hopefully save some people some time.
SeanWest.com, SeanWes.com. And then you can find also the Daily Content Machine about Sean too. The Daily Content Machine, Sean, real quick, could you just tell us a blurb about that?
Yeah. So currently, I'm focused on the agency side of our business, so the services side, where we turn people's long form videos, like podcast videos or webinars, things like that, into short clips. So we find all of the best moments in your hour-long footage, chop it up, edit it, write titles, descriptions, make the graphics, render it all nicely, and so you can just turn that weekly recording into daily content across all the platforms. So that is dailycontentmachine.co. Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, I always like to work with our guests like Sean, who so openly shares experiences, expertise, advice, tips to help save you time and money and effort and all that stuff to be able to say, let's talk about what you do. You need to check that out, everybody that's listening and to the recording too, because I love your process and the output is what we all kind of want. Things like these, I love doing these live webinars, but what you're doing is like really taking those snippets of things like, oh, Sean just did that great quote, and putting them in a way where it's like, okay, now I just need to schedule my tweet or post it on Instagram. And I love that. So thanks for sharing that. Okay, we're talking about membership sites and courses. What's the first thing sticks out to you when I just say those words? Does it make you? I think it makes you smile. Obviously, it's one of our topics we've talked about in this series that we've been interviewing you with. But what sticks out to you?
Oh wow, so much. I mean,
Yeah,
this was my life, for years and years. It was just courses and memberships. And there's so many pros. There's also so many unknowns, that you don't realize till you get into it. There's everything from making sure you're selling the right thing to the right people and
Mm,
pricing it well, making sure you have an offer that converts, to actually delivering the material. How do you deliver it? Is it scripted? Do you use a teleprompter? Is it live? Is it, workshop format, and how do you host it? What learning management system do you use? Do you have quizzes? There's all of those logistical things. But then how do you sell? How do you launch it from the beginning? How do
mhm.
you continue to sell it over time? Do you have close and open launches? Do you do quarterly? Do you try some kind of evergreen option? Like, do you do the cohort style where it's live and you do a 6-week program with Zoom calls? Do you add a community component? Is that included? Is that additional? Is it separate? So I see all of that, and there's certainly some beauty in it in terms of leverage, because you get to leverage your time, your expertise, knowledge, insight, and and it's really cool. Like, being able to help someone unlock something, get a breakthrough, achieve some kind of goal for themselves or success is really cool, even in a one-on-one coaching scenario. But if you can get that for a bunch of people while recording once, it's such a great feeling. And at the same time, the dream of, I'm just going to record this and sell it again and again and again, it's not entirely passive. No matter how you try and set up the model, there is going to be some maintenance, in the technical sense, but also in the content sense, and in the support and things like that. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Y- I'm so glad you said that because there is this tendency to think it's the Holy Grail and it's passive. And I'm glad you said that because I don't know very many business models in the world that are truly passive. Like there's somebody having to do something on the other end. But I want to start first because your site is loaded with information. If you all want to learn more about all of this, seanwest.com, go there, search the archives, look around, tons of courses that you've got. And then you can Google and a lot of people talking about memberships and courses. What I want to talk to you about is something I've had a problem myself, and I think a lot of other people do. You've done both. Which comes first? Because if I think about membership sites, I go recurring revenue, huge. That's what I want to like focus on. I want to build again. I'll use the Holy Grail. Holy Grail is recurring automatic subscription payments. Okay. In practice, it hasn't worked out like that for me. I don't have a content archive to just go like you do now. 7+ years of doing all this work, you can sell a membership site. And I'm curious your thoughts for someone going, I want to sell my expertise through a membership site course. What's your thoughts and advice for someone getting started? Does one come first? Does both come first? What's your thoughts about that?
So it's the right question, but for, I'm going to say, 80% of people listening, it's the wrong time. So that
Mm,
question comes later. There's something that precedes that. And this is the most common thing that I see is you have this thing you want to sell, and then you apply all the tactics to it to try and figure out how to sell it. And really, if you want to be, well, I mean, look, you can write a book. You can write a book on whatever you want, however you want, title it however you want. And if you're comfortable being the only reader, knock yourself out. But if you want your book to be read,
yeah.
let alone be a bestseller, you have to consider who you're selling to, what it is that they want, what it is that they're interested in, what are their struggles, what are their goals. If you don't consider that, you run the risk of spending a lot of time and a lot of energy creating something that when you go to launch is met with crickets.
Mm.
And trust me, you don't want that. You don't want that. I've seen it a lot. I've done it myself. It's so much blood, sweat, and tears. And you launch and there's nothing. I don't want that for you. It's not
Yes.
a good feeling. So
Okay, that's my bigger problem. You're absolutely right. How do I not launch the crickets? Because I've launched a lot of crickets. chirping.
The-
How do we determine what we think is, you used in our pre-show, product market fit and things like that, is like, I have all these sets of expertise. How do I even pick a topic? Or what do you think we should start with as we
Yeah.
contemplate membership sites and courses?
It starts with the who, not the band, but who you're trying to reach. Uh, who is it that you're trying to serve? The reason it starts with the who is, yes, we're ultimately going to get to the what. The what is your solution that solves their problem. But in order to sell the what effectively, we have to know, we have to be able to read our prospects' minds, our customers' minds. We need to be able to articulate the problem they have better than they could themselves. And then when they feel like we're reading their minds, then they'll buy because they feel like we understand the problem. So you have to fall in love with the problem your prospects have, not your solution. And this is what people don't want to do. Everyone wants to fall in love with their solution. I want to make this plugin. I want to write this book. I want to sell this course. In order to do it effectively, we're eventually going to need to sell this. In order to do it effectively, you have to be able to articulate their problems better than they can themselves. And the only way you can do that is if you fall in love with their problems. So the question to ask yourself with to start is, whose problems can you live with day in and day out and not get sick of? So you might think like, I want to sell to new moms. It's like, great. Can you live with the problems new moms have? And do you never get bored of those? You know, and you never get upset or frustrated. It's like you empathize. You're okay living there. Do you want to sell to WordPress developers? Okay, well, you're going to be talking about, you know, PHP and setting up websites and you know, compatibility. Like, do you fall in love with these type of problems, or are they just annoyances to you? Because you're going to live in those problems, not to mention, you know, customer support and all of that, whether that's you or training someone on your team, you're going to live with those. But also in terms of marketing, to be able to effectively sell what it is you want to sell, you have to be able to relate to them. So you've got to fall in love with their problems, not your solution. So we're working backwards from who it is that we want to reach. So that's how you figure out who you want to reach, whose problems can you live with, and then you want to survey that audience. Now, what if you don't have an audience? Well, then you're going to start with 10 people. If you can't find, write down, DM, connect with on LinkedIn, 10 people that you would want to reach that are in that group, then you've got a bigger problem. Then if you don't even know, or you can't find 10 people manually on your own, then you may want to try somewhere else. But most of us can do that. We can find those 10 people, have conversations with them, set up a call, position it as a free consultation, genuinely show up to help them with your expertise. But in that, ask them questions and learn about them. What is your biggest struggle when it comes to setting up your WordPress website? What is your biggest struggle, you know, having this 6-month-old, you know, learn from them, compare, take notes, even better if you record the call and transcribe. Compare across those 10 conversations. What are the commonalities? What did 9 out of 10 all of them say? What did 7 out of 10 of them say? Those are the golden things that you want to hold on to. Like, okay, these are common struggles amongst the people that I want to reach. If you already have an audience, even better, you can survey that audience. So ask an open-ended question. Here's the biggest mistake people do here. They say, do you want this, or this? You know, would you buy a course on this? Would you buy a course on this? Do you want a book about this? Do you want a book about this? It's not open-ended. You want to ask an open-ended question. What's the biggest struggle when it comes to X? What are your goals in this area? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to achieve? What does success look like? You want to ask open-ended questions and then compare. Only when you've done this upfront research and you figure out, based on who you want to reach, what it is that they want, what do they struggle with, and what are their goals, and you find those commonalities. When you sell in the overlap there, you're going to have a hit. But if you start with, I want to make this thing, how can I apply all the tactics? At best, you only have a temporary success, and then it stops working.
This is the problem that I have had. It's the hammer and nail. If you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I want to ask this. how do you think about what type of customer, member, client, that ideal client? How do you think about that?
Mm.
To me, I go, I hate it, but it's reality of business. They got to have money to spend. They got to have money to be willing to spend. They kind of have to know a problem. But I'm curious because, like, I love therapists, for instance. I love working with
Mm-hmm.
therapists. Most of them don't have a lot of money.
I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, Corey, and there's a matrix of people and product. So if we're just overgeneralizing to make a simple, 2x2 matrix, uh, there's people who have money and there's people who don't have money. And there's products or services that make money for people, and there's products and services that are kind of just nice to have for that person. Now, we all care, hopefully, many of us care about the people who don't have money. We often feel a great deal of passion for wanting to help out, the less fortunate. And in order to be able to do that, we need resources. And so I think if you're really wanting to help people who don't have money in a sustainable way, the easiest way to get there is to start with money-making products or services that you sell to people who have money. That's the fastest way to get there, because then you have this overflow and you're not stuck straddling between, I'm trying to charge a sustainable price, premium fees that can help me pay the bills, but also make it low enough that people who don't have money can afford it. Instead of trying to straddle that, which is, you'll never succeed that way. You can win as a premium brand. You can win as a discount brand. There's the Apples and there's the Walmarts of the world. Where you'll die is trying to straddle the middle. You've got to pick one. What I recommend for those of us who are just small business owners, entrepreneurs, is start with money making products or services for people who have money. And then once you put your own oxygen mask on, so to speak, now you can help people who are less fortunate, who don't have money. And instead of trying to discount or lower the price, you can do it pro bono. You can do it entirely for free because you have the means and the resources to do so.
That's so good. And I love that focus on you just broke it down so eloquently, Sean. Is if I start there, because I have the skill, I want everybody to benefit from some of those services, but I get to I'm sorry, I thought I had my phone on do not disturb and now it's just blowing up on me. Um, Start with the people that have money, and that I say this a lot too personally, but you just connected the dots, is that through that prosperity potentially, that's where I can give. And I've also thought about, like, or read probably from you, is that your blog is often that free resource for everybody. Okay, thank you so much. So start with those people, but you also said something that was so key to me. And as I've talked to entrepreneurs and also put the mirror back on me, is that when you said, I love the way you put it, can you live with those problems that they have? Like, are you interested in them? Too often, Sean, I've thought profit first and made really costly mistakes just going that, when I'm not like, is this the thing I will be talking about and thinking about and wanting to do something with in 3 to 5 years? Like, maybe not forever, but mine is, I love working with entrepreneurs. I love talking to entrepreneurs like you. And the other is mental health, you know? So that was my two markers that I tried to go down that route. And when I go down those routes that you said so eloquently about passion and interest and these things you want to do, the work is so much better. But you gave me another rubric just now, which is, we need to find the pockets of people that actually have money.
Yeah, this is what I've done because my passion is, as a recovering workaholic, taking sabbaticals.
Yes.
Taking time off for me, for my team. I mean, my stated mission is to get every company in the world to pay their employees to take off every 7th week as a sabbatical. By 2047, this is my goal. I want this to happen. And I don't have to get every single company. I just need to get a tipping point,
Yeah.
and that doesn't even have to be 51%. It could just be the 15% of the most influential companies that create that domino effect. But this is my passion. I think this is how we can prevent burnout, which is something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. and also unlock our best ideas. I think your best ideas, the ones for which you will be known, the ones that will contribute to your legacy after you're gone, are currently locked up and inaccessible to you. And it's not until
Mm.
you take a step back and create space and time to explore that you'll discover those. So I see this as just the most important thing I can help people do in my life. But it's not as lucrative, to be an ambassador for this sabbaticals concept. I think eventually, yeah, it could be a profitable consulting group that goes into big companies and helps them implement it. But for now, I legitimately started my agency as a way to cash flow this mission that in and of itself, at least initially, will not be, something that brings in a bunch of money.
Sean, this is why I love talking to you. You ooze the right brand of entrepreneurship that I love and embrace. This, you don't have to work 100,000 hours a week, that it should do good in the world. And when you do good in the world, you should do well in the world, and it should fit and align with what you want to do in life. I could segue on that, my friend, but I, I, I don't, I want to stay on focus, but you tempted me so bad. Just want to talk about all that. Okay. So we talked about customer audience first, and you've given us an amazing matrix. Can we live with the problem? And are we passionate about their problems? What's next? Then we go to the chicken and the egg, or is there something else in between?
So we're trying to figure out what is it that our audience is struggling with. We're not asking them, what do you want to buy? We're asking them what they're struggling with and what they want to accomplish, what their goals are. And then we're creating a solution for that that may take place, in the form of a book or a course or a membership. The vehicle isn't so important. It's more about making sure we're delivering the right solution. So once you have that, let's say you've done the research, you've surveyed your audience, or if you don't have an audience, you talked to 10 people, you looked at the least common denominators. Then I like to validate your product idea. By product, I mean course or membership, by pre-selling it. So what I'm giving here, what I'm delivering, is kind of part of my framework that I call pre-sale profits. So I have a course, presaleprofits.com, where it's get paid to make your next digital product, get paid in advance to make your next digital product. So instead of creating something, launching it, and you're met with crickets, you're getting paid to make something. So how do you get paid before you've actually made something? Kind of seems like you're selling air, or an idea. And in a sense you are, but we've all pre-ordered a Mac, or an iPhone, or various different devices, and maybe they were still in manufacturing at the time, who knows. But you're eventually going to get something, and what this does is it validates the idea. If you have someone who says, yeah, I would be interested if you made that, if you make that, I will buy that when you launch it. You haven't validated it. It's not until you get them to pull out their credit card, enter their credit card info and actually send or transfer that money, that you've validated it. So we're trying to get people to purchase, put their money where their mouth is, to show you that you have something here. And the worst case is you create this landing page that's, here's what I'm going to make, and you put something up for pre-sale and nobody buys it. Well, you didn't make it. So that's okay, but what is it that would justify pre-selling something and getting people to pay for something that doesn't yet exist? Well, one, because you've done the research, this is exactly what they want. And it's what they want because you've asked them and you've talked to them. But two, you can also give an introductory price that's only going to be available once when someone pre-orders, and never again. And that's a way that you can get people to pay before it's ready.
I like it. So you talk to your ten potential customers, gives you names and faces, unearth struggles, problems, match that, and then you go and what's a simple way? And I put links to Sean's pre-sale profits course, by the way. So go get the course. But is there? How do you approach doing that? Is it like, okay, I want to do something, I would do it live, or do you buy and say it's going to be coming available in 2 months? Buy now, get it
This
available,
is
and see how it goes.
this is a great question, and maybe I'll use this opportunity to uh, juxtapose or differentiate between courses and memberships, and which one you would want to start and when you'd want to do the other. So I would start with this. I would not recommend starting with a membership if you've never made a course before, because the most successful memberships I see have a core curriculum to them. And oftentimes additional courses are added, additional training is added as you go. But most often, the successful memberships I see have some kind of core training associated, a course, kind of like a path or whatever, that everyone in this membership community has as like a commonality that they can discuss and talk about. And there's all kinds of other reasons too, but let's just say for now, you should start with a course. If you're considering between course and membership and you've never done a course, start with a course. You can always roll that into a membership. So start with a course, and trying to remember what the last thing was that you asked, because I was kind of relating that piece to it.
Yeah, that is so good that you started with that, because, or you said that. And by the way, if you're listening to this webinar live or recording, Sean just saved you a ton of time and effort. Because I go, members, this is what I started out with. It's like my big thing. I've started with membership, Holy Grail, and go, I don't have a ton of content. And the
I remembered
course,
it, by the way.
yeah, go for it.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but it
No,
was, how do you deliver it? You know, is it pre-recorded? Is it a cohort? Is it live? I've done all the versions. I've done all of them where you write up a script, you edit it, you use a teleprompter, you know, you use a video editor. It's very tightly produced. Um, there's benefits to that. The benefit is it's very efficient in terms of information delivery. So, you know, it's respecting your students' time. Um, you also, by scripting it in advance, effectively create the lesson notes. You can just also plug that in there. Very easy to reference. You don't even have to worry about transcription after the fact because you wrote it. It's written well, etc. On the flip side, though, I've found myself leaning more after the many years I've spent creating all the courses, you know, 72 lesson courses and like 68 lesson courses, just like lots of time on those like scripted, heavily scripted courses. I actually find myself leaning more towards the live delivered courses or workshops, you might call them. So for instance, Pre-Sale Profits is actually a 4-week program where I came up with this 4-module course, and each module has some 4 or 5 lessons, but I delivered it over the course of 4 weeks, 1 module per week, live in real time. So I actually applied what I'm describing here to the launch of that course. I pre-sold it, so the course didn't exist. I had it mapped and outlined. I told people what the value proposition was, what they would get out of it. Here, get paid in advance to launch your next digital product. There's the value proposition. This is what you're going to get out of the program. I sold it a pre-sale before it existed, and you know, I don't remember what that one made. Maybe 10,000 or 20,000 or something like that. And then I showed up over the course of 4 weeks and delivered the curriculum. The cool thing about the live component is at the end of my delivery of a given module, I also have extra time set aside for Q&A. So I'm able to adapt this course material to students' real experiences, use their real businesses and products and examples in real time, which just enriches the material and makes it that much more applicable and relatable. So I really like that aspect of it. Also, it's so much easier for me to create because I come up with an outline of like modules and lessons and bullets, and I just look at my bullets and I already know what I want to say. So I just deliver that, and I didn't have to pre-script it. I didn't have to edit it. You know, that was it. That live recording is now the course. What you do have to consider is for that to be worth people's time and to go well, you need to have some practice in delivering kind of off the cuff. Maybe if you've done a bunch of podcasts or interviews, that can go really well. If it's your first time, I might start scripted just to make it a little more efficient. But that course I sold standalone. There was an introductory price. That price went away after the live component. The recorded version has its own price. And that recorded version is also in the membership. So I know we're kind of like all over the place, but in my case, I've sold the courses standalone, And then I made a membership that's kind of like a Netflix for business training, where it's like, here, you can just get all of the courses that I've ever made.
That's one thing that has occurred to me as I flipped it and tried to start with membership. And I've done both. I have not done what you're talking about, which is so fantastic, the pre-sale. Like, do it as I'm so good, or used to, I should say, in the rhythm of doing live presentations, that I could have done that, pre-sold it, turned it in a course. The way I've been thinking about it is like, when I think you were getting to, at some point you start doing enough of those courses, you do it the pre-sale way that you're talking, you got a membership, like I have been sitting on one of your pages on your site forever going, oh, of course. Okay. No membership. Oh, of course. And because I want the buffet, I want all of it, Um,
There's
okay.
some cool stuff you can do if you want to get a little more advanced, where in my case, I have a $99 a month membership, gives you access to $8,000 worth of training. I also have various programs that are intentionally positioned at that $99 price point. Because what you can do if you want to get really fancy is these, let's call them mini courses, if it's a $99 course. These mini courses are also in the membership. Membership's $99 a month, mini courses 99 once. What you can do is set up a one-click upsell where you buy a course and it's like, hey, did you know this course is available inside membership? You just spent $99. Would you like to try a month of membership for $0 more today? And you can convert them to a monthly subscription that way, and they can cancel if they want, right? But some number of people are going to stick around once they realize what they have access to.
Good. Okay. I love this. I want to go back to something you said, which helped crystallize it for me, which is that first thing that you start out with is a course, but it maybe is the core training. But you said a word that really resonated. It's a path. So if I'm connecting the dots of what you're talking about, we've started with the customer. We've started with the people that actually have money. We've done the 10, the research to talk to 10 of those people. And then we thought, okay, there's this opportunity to create this path that you used. So in that, do you think of that? How do you think of that? Is it a step-by-step thing in this first pre-course thing as a way to kicking off your membership site course kind of empire?
Yeah, to answer that question, I'll tell you what not to do. And that's what I did, which is just create a bunch of courses on all kinds of random things that you know. That's essentially what I did. It's like, I know copywriting, I know pricing, I know licensing and how to get paid quarterly for your artwork, like I just made courses on everything, but there weren't these connection points for it, especially in terms of one audience. So it was just kind of like a mixed bag. And then I had all these courses and I was trying to sell this one and then shift gears and sell this one to a different audience, different way, different time. And it was just overwhelming. And as like a patch fix in my case, I bundled everything together, and lots of it does relate. But one person is probably not going to find value in every single training. And ideally, with a membership, you do want that common avatar for your member. Who is it that you're serving? Are you serving productized agency owners who want to grow their 6-figure agency to 7 figures? Like, well, there's going to be a lot of commonalities, and your core curriculum or core training can take them on a path from where they are when they join to where they want to be. And ideally, that's something that most of your members are experiencing. And if you kind of sell a bunch of random stuff, then most of your members may not be experiencing that. And it may be hard to help them find their unique path to success. I lost your audio, Corey. Sorry.
I keep muting on the mic. Sorry about that. So we talked about find your who, start with 10, passion and connected to problems. We've done the pre-sale. Then and you talked through some of the course, how to find that path and what to offer. What's next after that?
I would think about pricing.
Ah,
So this is where you start to get into the comparison game, because it's really hard to come up with what should you price something at, so you kind of just start looking around. What do other people price? Someone else probably thought through this, I'll just copy them. First of all, maybe they didn't. So you could be copying something that isn't going to be sustainable for you because it's not sustainable for them. But also, you don't necessarily need to price competitively with the market. You could charge 10 times as much. That's what I did with my first course. It was a lettering course. Every other hand lettering, drawing letters course that I saw at that time in 2013, 2012, whenever that was around $29. That was it. It was just kind of like hobby thing, how to draw this style of letters, get this course $29. I launched for $299, 10x the price. How can you possibly do that? Well, it's because my value proposition was different. Everyone else was selling how to draw letters. I was selling how to make a living as a hand lettering artist. So yes, it included the drawing lessons, the technical aspects, but it was also pricing. It was also like, how do you sell a logo? What, like the psychology behind it. How do you sell your artwork to a company that's going to make stickers or wall vinyls out of it and actually get licenses and royalties? How do you write design contracts? Like, it was all the business stuff that you didn't learn in school that you need to actually succeed as an artist. And so I was able to sell it for 10 times the price. So it's kind of coming back to like starting with who has the money and what are their problems. So some questions I might ask is like, why do they want this product? So I want you to kind of think about these things, zoom out from like, here's the course and the problem it solves, and let's look at the scope or the context of their entire life, at least in this realm. Why do they want this product? What are they going to do after they receive it? What else might they need? And how can you deliver a premium experience? So, if you were just looking at the status quo and we call that average, what would make this premium? Because some people do want that premium experience. And all of these help you provide more value that justifies a higher price point. So a lot of people say, well, I couldn't charge 10x because that's scary. That maybe in your case, that price has a comma in it, and it's like, oh, I couldn't do that. Instead of saying, could I do this? You start with the number that you think is right. And it could be above the market if you're targeting the right people. And you say, how can I provide this much value? And so you're adding value to your product until you justify that price point. And you do that by thinking outside the context of just the course and what's the rest of their life. And like, okay, once they get this, for instance, maybe you order a desk and you get a box of parts. What is that person's experience? They purchase the desk arrives, they have boxes of parts. Think through their experience. They now need to put the desk together. What if they don't want to? What if you could have an add-on that includes assembly? There's more revenue for you. You can have a profit margin on that. So like, yeah, just think outside the product.
And I love your example about your handwritten, hand drawing course, that it was about connecting back to what you gave us advice at the beginning, which is make money. So it's not just learn it, but learn it to make money, which I think is really compelling. And my question is, because you said, okay, well, at some point you looked out there and most hand lettering courses were $29. Where does reviewing the competition and what's out there come into play? How do you approach? How is that helpful? When is it helpful regarding competitive analysis or comparison or whatever else?
I tend to I tend to almost entirely disregard the competition because I see that as energy I could pour more into understanding my customers and what it is that they want, what their struggles are, what their goals are. Because the more I pay attention to them, the better I can relate to them, the better I can appeal to them in the copy, the better I can make them feel like I understand their problems better than they do themselves, the better I can paint a picture of the future that they want and what success looks like, the better I can make my product adapt to their reality and their context outside of the core immediate product, such that I can deliver more value. And I'd rather lead the way in that sense and be someone that my competitors copy instead of just kind of blindly copying them and saying, oh, they offer this, we should too. Oh, this is their price point, that's going to be my price point. I try to kind of create my own space and say, you know what, this is an apples to oranges comparison. I understand you saw competitor XYZ also sells this, and this is their price point. We actually offer something entirely different, because see, with them, you'll hire them for this package. It's actually named similarly, so it makes sense that you might have thought they were the same thing, but actually this is going to require you to do all this extra work, and we actually do all of that extra work for you and go above and beyond in this way, and this way. And so that's why our price point is this, because we're actually going to eliminate an entire, another person on your team for less than the cost of a full-time employee. And so I turned it into an apples and oranges comparison.
Mm, I love that. Okay, now if I dive deeper, when you were talking about that, I totally get that. And you're right. I spent the first couple of years at iThemes thinking about other competition, and it distracted me, drained my energy and my team. Okay, so I guess when I think about competition and reviewing competition, I think about, and I know you have classes in your membership specifically on value pricing and packaging. I'm not sure if you specifically talk about memberships and courses, but so how do you think about, I've got all this way, I've got what I want to do. How do you even think about how to price it? I'll be honest with you, Sean, I suck at this. I don't remember how we initially at iThemes came up with $80 for, let's say, Backup Buddy and our plugins. And our team kept saying it's still too cheap. There was a time though, I sold it for $25, which is ridiculous. What are your thoughts on how do I develop and also back up a price tag and a package? I think more pricing, but I want to leave this open to you and your direction on this.
Lots of thoughts. First thing is I will always increase the price permanently. I don't like to ever bring it down arbitrarily by discounting. So I have a chapter in my book, overlapbook.com. It's free to read online, called Full Price or Free. Nothing in the middle. Like everything in the middle devalues you, your brand, your services, your products. So I like to charge full price, or I like to give something away and make it free whenever possible. The exception to that is an introductory price. So if you're launching something early, people are pre-ordering, you want to reward that loyalty. Your best people are the people who buy first. Who gets the new iPhone first. It's the avid fans. On the launch day, right? Like you got to think about those people for your brand, and your biggest fans, they're going to buy as soon as something's available, and you want to reward that loyalty. And you can reward loyalty by giving an introductory price. So maybe it's $149, and then after the launch, the new price is $199, and it's never coming back down. So you can always do a permanent price increase, and that respects your loyal buyers and doesn't devalue. But you can't ever go back down. So you mentioned you started out at 20 something, and it's like that was really low, and it's like, yeah, it was low, but you can always increase later. So that's a consideration. When it comes to memberships, I like to launch with an introductory price that is grandfathered, that is annual. So let's say you wanted to launch a membership that was, let's call it $29 a month. So typically people will do, 12 months in a year, that's $348. Often people will do, give a couple months off. So maybe it's $290 for the year, right? What I would do is I would sell, so $290 for the year, that might be your target annual price for this otherwise $29 monthly membership. I would sell an introductory grandfathered loyalty rate on this new membership that you're launching at a price of like $249 or $229 or something like that, where it's like, hey, this eventual membership is going to be $29 a month, or that comes out to $348 a year on the monthly plan. We're launching this at $229 for you as an introductory member, as a loyalty rate for you. Founding member. Thank you. That's the term that I use, because you give them like that a sense of like ownership and participation in this. And
you help start the community.
Yeah, exactly. So it's $229 a year. You do the math for yourself, right? You find a compelling rate, but it's also grandfathered. So here's what this does. First of all, it front loads a bunch of revenue before you've even launched this thing. You get a bunch of founding members. You get 50 people at the $229, and there's $11,000 just right off the bat just to launch this thing. The second thing it does is it creates lock-in. So even if yes, you want to sell more of this in the future, we can talk about ongoing sales, but even just in terms of locking in what you now have that 11,000 annual recurring. And those members are going to be heavily disinclined from canceling because they would lose their grandfathered membership status. So you create this lock-in and price anchoring that way. As far as what actual price to set, again, I recommend not straddling the middle, like go premium or go like kind of more discount, like low end, right? Where I would either try and fly under the radar in terms of a price point for your target audience that is a no-brainer, that they don't look at every month and reevaluate. Now, for most of us, in terms of streaming services and entertainment, that might be a $15 Netflix subscription. Whether we watch much Netflix this month or last month, we'll keep it. Maybe we watch something next month. That's kind of in that no-brainer price range. For me, selling to six-figure business owners and consulting and coaching six-figure business owners, this is maybe crazy to a lot of folks, but surprisingly, recurring expenses in the $2,000 a month range can actually be fairly invisible to business owners at that level. I've coached people who they paid for stuff like, it could be coaches, it could be software, it could be affiliate managers. They've paid people, $2,000, $2,500 a month, and they're not even utilizing it. And it's just been recurring every single month. It's basically invisible to them. So that my point here is the number that's invisible, that's flying below the radar, is different depending on your target audience, right? But the one approach is fly under the radar, or charge a premium price that people really think about every month. And it's like, this is a big investment, but then you're backing it up with incredible value. So you're not trying to be an invisible line item on their expenses. You've got employees who are very much not invisible line items. Their salary is not invisible, but neither is their contribution. And you would never think of letting them go because their contribution is significant. So I'm saying don't straddle the middle. Either fly under the radar and occupy that low level subscription for your audience that they would just not even think about canceling, your Stratechery subscription or whatever, or go totally premium, but back it up with immense value. And that could be like weekly group coaching calls or done for you services included, like whatever that is. I would just say don't straddle the middle.
I really like that, and that helps clarify. Low enough where flying under the radar, and then the other side is high enough. I probably went in that middle somewhere where it feels conflicting, and and honestly, I'm sure you talk about this in your course on value pricing, is devalued what I'm actually offering people, which is I do a lot of non-paid coaching because I have a weirdness about it, here's this.
If I can interject on that,
please.
If you're ever giving away your time, there better be a comma in the price. That's my rule. If your time is included, you need a comma in the price. The exception might be if it's like a group, once a month group coaching, and you've got 100 members that show up to the session or whatever, that's fine. But if there's one-on-one, your time, comma in the price.
Okay. I dig that. Any other thoughts on pricing packaging before I move on? Actually, we're getting near our time here. Anything there? And
Um, yeah, just leverage that. You always want to have price anchoring. So what's the best way to sell an $800 watch? The answer, next to an $8,000 watch. So no number is big or small. It's relative, and it's relative to the number we saw most recently. So if on your landing page for your course or your membership, the first price they see is the price of what you're selling, it's high to them. So you've got to price anchor it. And there's a ton of ways to do this. My favorite way to do it is to have the price anchor be something with an extra digit, an extra zero. So if your course is $499, I want to see a price anchor of something in the 5-figure range or 4-figure range. Sorry. And it can be anything. It could be like, here's what it looks like to do this on your own. And you find someone and a freelancer costs this and this, and total is like 2,400. It could be that. It could be, here's what the cost of a college semester is, and it's like, this price point. Here's what the cost of not doing this now and having everything break and then having to pay someone an emergency developer fee to fix this. It's this. Get some kind of price before they see the one associated with your product that has an extra digit on it to act as a price anchor. And you can further that effect by when you're initially launching something with an introductory price. So if you're launching something at $499, I'd like to get a 4-figure price anchor in the page on the landing page before we get to that point. Then I'm going to show the $499. Then I'm going to strike through the $499 and I'm going to say, but it's $397 at an introductory price until the end of the month, and then that price goes away forever. So we're kind of layering that price anchoring effect.
I like that direction because putting that anchoring, we thought about that with our packages at iThemes. But what I didn't do is what you've encouraged us to do, which is put the higher price first, so that, like you said, with the $800 and $8,000 watch, see the $8,000 watch. Wow, I don't know if I'd ever pay $8,000 for it, but it removes barriers to the $800 one. And I love that too for positioning. Like, you want to grow your value and everything. There's an anchor. So if you want to be at $2,000 a month that you said, there's a $10,000 option, which is you get the bat phone, you get me on site.
Yep.
The 2,000 is more the curated, where you can anchor that. And it really, I've seen this too and done this too and tried to do this too, is what's the one you actually want to sell, and make sure you're anchoring around that to sell that.
On this note, mistake I made, I had with my initial class, had a master class, and then I crippled it down. I made a smaller version, removed things, smaller version, removed things. Huge mistake. The launch was successful, but it could have been even more successful. And I think Nathan Barry was the one that told me this. You take your core product and you add on top of it, and you add on top of it. You add value. Instead of removing and making smaller packages, you add value, create bigger packages that even if no one buys, positively price anchor the package that you really do want to sell. And if anyone's hesitating because they're like, oh, this stuff feels gross, like I don't want to, like, I get that. But we're not trying to be disingenuous about anything. You have to see it as like, we all operate this way. We're helping people make decisions to buy a product that, if we're doing business the right way, is genuinely going to help people. We all see $499 as different than $500.
Yeah.
It just is the way that it goes. We all see prices as being relative to other numbers. We compare. This is why you had the gold Apple Watch when it first came out in 2015. Like, first of all, it creates a story and celebrities and stuff, but really it's to make their $500, $600 watch not seem expensive. You're helping people make a decision. If you just put one price, one package, no price anchoring, you're causing people to kind of freak out. You need to help do the work for them of comparing. You need to help them make the decision that's going to be in their best interest. And that's what price anchoring does.
That last part that you just said, I'm putting in the show notes, is it's not manipulation. It's helping them make, well, I think it's twofold from what you said too. It's showcasing your value. And I love that last part. That famous book, Don't Make Me Think, which I know is about web usability and everything, I think equally applies to this. Is it should be a shut up, take my money. You know, like what you said is help them make a really good decision that's best for them. That's what you're doing in all this. And that's not manipulative. That's helpful. Sean, we just got a couple more minutes. So much. Thank you for your time. Any parting thoughts before we sign off and let you talk about SeanWest.com and anything else you're doing that we want to talk about?
I would say the last thing I would say is you don't need a big audience to sell digital products online. If you have a small audience, you can go more specific, you can go more narrow, and you can help people. I often say, before you launch a course, you should launch a workshop. So sell a one-time event. You know, back in the day, I was talking about like in person, you know, but you can do this online now. You can do this virtual, which is great. But sell a one-time event, which is, you know, you're there, you're presenting, it's real time, they can ask questions, you're learning about them. You've got your own curriculum in mind. But as you hear the questions people ask, you're like, oh, you know what? I should adapt that, you know, to make it make sense for people or help it fit this particular scenario. Because a course is scaling, content is scaling, writing a book is scaling. It's scaling conversations. You don't want to scale a conversation that didn't go well. You know, you want to scale a conversation that goes well. So that workshop creates these conversations where you're like, okay, I know when I say it this way. Like so many things I've said in this interview, you know, I've thought about and I've written about and I've presented and I've watched people's faces and I've listened to their feedback and I've adapted and adapted and adapted to the point where I say something in a way that I know now, based on this data, resonates with people. So you do that in a workshop, you find out, oh, when I say it this way, they get it. The example makes sense. Then you turn that into a course, right? So you're not like making a course based on something that, I'm not really sure whether or not this is going to work. So yes, scale things that you know are working.
Yeah, gosh, there's so much more there. Thank you for saying the workshop. That helps me, and I know it's going to help a bunch of people listening to it. And I appreciate so much, Sean, for your guidance, for being, gosh, such a flowing, like fount of of advice and helpful experience share. I appreciate it. Okay, tell us where we can find more about you again, and make sure, by the way, he's going to tell you about SeanWest.com, sign up for his email newsletter, I'm sure, but also follow him on Twitter. But I'll turn that over to you, Sean.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Sean Wes, SeanWes, Instagram as well. SeanWes.com, that's where I've got all of my courses and membership, but also dailycontentmachine.co. That's our service, our agency. If you want to turn your long form videos into short clips, we'd be happy to do that for you.
Sean, thanks, my friend. I appreciate you so much. Just giving so freely to our audience here at Post Status. I want to have you on again if you'll have us, and to keep talking. You're just an amazing resource and amazing entrepreneur.
Thanks so much, Corey. I'll always enjoy talking to you, and anytime, happy to come back.
All right. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, everybody else. See you later.